Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the shop once again. Today we're working on a 2010 Ford Edge that has a lot of miles on it. It's like 185,000 miles on it. And we're preemptively changing the chain-driven water pump because the customer's getting some Blackstone readings back that may indicate coolant is getting into the oil and basically destroying the bearings. They get higher metal counts and then they assume there's coolant in the oil. So we're changing out preemptively. I say by now, 185,000 miles, it's due. Now, if you don't know by now, the 3.5 liter, 3.7 liter Duratec engines have chain-driven water pumps. They're buried deep down inside the engine, and they're driven by the timing chain on there. So if you want to change a water pump or you have it failed on your vehicle, a normal $200 parts and labor job just turned into about $2,000 at the dealer. For me, for my customers at the shop here, I charge around $1,250 to do this job on this vehicle. Now, I already pulled the valve covers off on here. We're not going to show the whole procedure. I want to go over the finer points of the procedure to show you what to look for when you pull one of these things off of there, because you're pulling basically the whole engine apart. I already found some timing components that have failed on here that the customer didn't know anything about, and I want to go over what to check on each one of these things as you take more and more of the engine apart just to change this water pump. Yes. So let's get to it. The valve covers are off. Let's take a look inside. Okay, so here is the water pump right here. You can see it's chain driven right there. Just kind of splines around it and spins with the engine at full engine RPM. You can see it has a plastic impeller on here. Generally, there's no problems with that. But the gasket on here can fail over time. And also the actual seal on the shaft here can leak. And sometimes if it gets worn enough, it'll leak right past there down into the oil. Now the idea here is they have some fail safes built in. They have a double gasket going on here, okay? So if the coolant gets past this first gasket, it's gonna go into this other channel here, and it has some space in here to kind of build, okay? And then there are some pockets in here, like right here, and usually these are the areas where the weep hole would go into on a regular water pump so they can kind of dry up and evaporate. On these, I don't know if it's the same case, but over here you'll see a big channel right here, and I'm quite positive this is the channel, this is the circuit where it actually goes out above that weep hole above the alternator. So it kind of builds enough in here, big enough leak, and it'll fill in here, go out that weep hole through the block, and that's how you'll know you have a coolant leak, and it'll leak externally when it gets past this first set of gaskets on here. That's the idea anyways. A lot of times, like I said, the shaft on here, the bearings get worn, and then it starts leaking coolant right into the engine oil pan. Okay, so again, I got the valve covers off on here ready, and I'm looking at a couple things on here. The first thing you want to check is your secondary timing chain and your tensioner. I barely ever see these fail, even on high mileage 2-valve engines. It doesn't matter. I mean, 4-valve engines actually, sorry. And sure enough, this one is just fine. You can see, I mean, I can't pull anything on it. It's nice and tight, and of course a little chain like this isn't going to stretch. There's no problems there. It's the tensioner you want to check and make sure they're functional. The other thing you want to check is the timing chain. While it's just sitting here, you have access to it, and you want to kind of see if you can flop it around. Now watch this one. Yeah, that's quite a bit. So I'm wondering if there's some broken guides inside of there, because these do have that cast iron ratcheting tensioner. So this might be stretch, or it might be broken guides inside here. I know there was a right-hand guide that was updated, and I do have the updated parts of this guy, but look at that. That's something to look forward to, when you go in here to check this kind of stuff. All right, got the front cover off of here, and yeah, you can see it's quite involved inside of here. One big long chain, and there's the water pump right there down in the center. So you got to pull the chain off, the guides, all that good stuff, just to even change the pump now that the front cover is off. So like I said, it's very, very involved. I think it pays 12, 14 hours to change a water pump on here. Now, I don't see any of these guides being broken. They're just metal-backed plastic guides all the way around, so you must have some timing chain stretch going on. I grabbed this earlier, tried to move it up and down. I'll check it when it's off the cart too to see if there's any slop in the shaft. Looks good to go so far. And everything else in here, nothing's broken. It's just, you know, timing chain stretch. And we're going to put on all new guides, chains, and tensioners for this guy because of the mileage. And then there's also an updated part for this right hand guide right here. So it goes right in place. That's the late model version for this engine. That's an improvement, I guess. So, yep, that's how it looks inside of here. And I think once I pull the chains and the guides off, I'll set the camera up right here so you guys can see me pull the water pump off just for the heck of it. I know it's kind of interesting stuff on these engines. All right, here we go. Now with the guide out of the way, held up out of the way, we're gonna pull the pump off of here just to show you guys what it's all about on here. See if this one actually failed in the gaskets or the shaft. Now I already spun this one and I'm pulling, and it's a little hard to turn. So I don't know if the bearings are worn out or the shaft is bent or the seal simply is dried up on there and it's not supple anymore. But this one's definitely ready to go. Now this is going to leak coolant out either way from each side of the block there. So I put a bunch of towels down in here in the pan area there, and that a little catch bucket pan made out of an oil bottle cut in half to catch the majority of it so we don't flood the pan. Besides that, it's just a couple of 8mm bolts all the way around. I'll get the lower ones first. Frickin' Milwaukee ratchet is such a time saver. All right, here we go. Now I'll keep the top one in just so you have some control over it. Make sure the rest of them are out. There's some locating valves on here, so it's going to stick a little bit. And of course the sealant, you know, the gasket on there, the two gaskets. Give it a little yank, we're good to go. And now you can get behind here, right here. Just give it a little pry on there. This one's really stuck on there. But then again, it has that huge amount of miles on there though. Let's see if I can get on this side, do the same thing and pry on there. Woochie mama! See, it's a lot of coolant. So you want to catch it the best you can. And have plenty of rags on hand too. At first I'll do something like this where it's a controlled leaker. And then after that we'll just let it go. It's a lot. Now you see how it all came out like that down below? Filled this pan, and then this end over here is hanging down, and it kind of filled and then poured out away from the pan the best we can. Anyways, let's go ahead and finish taking it off. It's all over now. Hopefully you packed enough in the pan there to soak it all up. Interesting. Down and out. And there it is. You can see right here that weep hole passage machined into the block, so when it starts leaking past that first seal on there, you'll see it come out through the block and it'll leak out just above and behind the alternator right here on the front of the vehicle. So when you're doing oil changes and stuff like that, checking out underneath the vehicle, you may want to check in this area behind it with a nice flashlight and check for crusties and of course liquid coolant, so you know when it's time to get in there and change this thing out before it destroys your engine.